Shalom and welcome to Challenging Torah. Our Parsha, Miketz, is almost always during the time of Chanukah, a time when little bits of light struggle against the darkness, a time when we have darkness that hopefully helps us to sleep and to dream and to be given visions of our lives. This is a Torah portion about endings, beginnings, and dreams. The word Miketz itself means this is the end, but it isn't really. It's just part of a long, long, intertwining story of dreams. Our Parsha begins with the words, "At the end, Miketz, of 2 years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile," and then we hear this very famous dream, "and out of the river came 7 cows, fat and sleek, and they fed on the grass. And then, behold, 7 cows came up from the river, poor and gaunt and ugly, and they devoured the 7 fat cows. But even when they devoured them, they were still ugly and gaunt." And then the dream repeats in a different version. "And he fell asleep," it said, "and Pharaoh dreamed a second time. 7 ears of grain came up, fat and sturdy, grew on a single stalk. And then came 7 gaunt, thin, withered, terrible ears of corn, and ate them up. And the ears were swallowed up, but the thin ears still looked gaunt and ugly. Pharaoh awoke. It was a dream. And Pharaoh, that morning, says to his advisors, I don't understand this dream. Would somebody help me to interpret it?" But none could interpret the dream of Pharaoh. Standing next to him is the cupbearer. The cupbearer has met Joseph while in prison. Just to remember, Joseph is in prison because, well, he started off his life telling dreams to his brothers, right? And his dad gave him this incredible striped coat, and he was Mr. Spoiled. And his brothers basically threw him in a pit, maybe to kill him, but finally sold him into slavery. He's sold into slavery, and quickly he's taken in by Potiphar, a powerful man, and is made head of his household. And it's all fine for a while, but Mrs. Potiphar, who very much wants Joseph to be intimate with her, grabs that beautiful coat, and then when he slips away, brings the coat and says, "Aha, look what this young man has done." He ends up in jail. Sits there for a few years, and there's a cupbearer and a baker of the Pharaoh, and they have dreams. One dream, Joseph interprets of the baker, stones in the bread, he's going to die. The cupbearer, wasn't his fault, it was a fly. He will live. The cupbearer has promised to remember Joseph and get him out of there, totally forgets. But it's not the end of the story. Suddenly, Pharaoh needs a dream interpreter, and they bring out of the prison an immigrant refugee with a jail record. That's who's going to help. It's incredible. The other thing that's incredible is it's such a simple dream. Obviously, fat cows, thin cows, this is about cycles. This is about taking care in the fat years for the lean years. This is about not having disparity between the rich and the poor. This is about, it seems so obvious. Why can't anybody interpret the dream? Only an outsider, a foreigner. Because the advisors all have political agendas. They want to keep their own heads. They want to stay in power. They want to stay close to the Pharaoh. And as all political advisors seem to do, they tell him what he wants to hear. He knows better. He calls in the outsider, the immigrant who's been not only rejected but put in jail. And he says, "I understand you interpret dreams. What can you do for me?" And Joseph, of course, explains to him that the thin cows are going to eat the fat cows because cycles happen. And then that the grain will take over the parched, ugly grain will take over the fat grain. In some way, because cycles happen, but in some way, we need to be able to protect against those cycles. We're at that moment, aren't we? Suddenly we turn on our TV, and there are thin, gaunt, ugly cows looking like ISIS, staring us right in the face. How did this happen? Didn't we have advisors? Didn't we know? Weren't there visionaries? Didn't somebody understand that this was going to happen? Didn't we tune into the same internet as everybody else and understand that this violence was out there? Sometimes it takes an outsider, a refugee, a foreigner, and we are closing our doors rapidly against hearing those words to tell us the truth. There are gaunt ears of grain. Climate change? How often do we need to be told by our inner advisors that climate change is real and we need to do something about planning and futuring, even if we can't stop it at this point? Pharaoh needs an outside interpreter and brings in Joseph. And then Joseph gets to live what is every immigrant's dream. The Pharaoh says, from now on, all Egypt will bow to you. You are second in command only to me. Makes this nobody the head of all planning because he spoke the truth of the dreams, which were right out there for anybody to see. And he then fulfills what was every American Jewish immigrant's dream. He gave him a wife who was not Jewish. He gave him a new name, and quickly he has children who he names, thank you for helping me to forget the afflictions of my father's home. Joseph, again in a magnificent outfit, takes care of the entire country, but never writes home to his dad. His dream, as was the American dream of immigrants who came here to the Golden Medina and found a whole new life, forgot the shtetl, forgot Yiddish, forgot any place that they came from. Not so fast. Not so fast. It follows them. And our dreams sometimes tell us the premonitions and the truth of what is to happen. The dreams of our childhood never really leave us either. We may be new immigrants, but we are who we are. And so, after 20 years, the brothers, those same brothers who threw him in the pit, show up because Joseph has managed the food. He is in charge of all Egypt. He's unrecognizable to anyone except himself. And the brothers look at him and know not Joseph, but Joseph knows who he is and where he comes from. We'll continue the story next week, but we ask that Hanukkah, the time of light, as these 8 lights shine upon us on this weekend, may there be light on our dreams, and may we know the correct interpretation of what we are to do with the dreams of our lives. Shabbat Shalom.